All right. So, hey, our third episode. Wow, we're rolling now.
We're
Hey,
going.
I'd like to. Today's topic is life in Minnesota as a father. Well, we both have two kids, but a father in the Midwest, fathering children. My name is Paul Tyson.
Uh, BJ Garshinsky or Brett, whatever you want to do. I'm just gonna pick a new one every week, Paul.
Every
Maybe I'll
week
go
we're
by
gonna go with the
George
new.
one day. Yeah,
My name's Frank. Awesome, man. Hey, how are you doing?
I am doing just fine. I'm actually feeling great. Feeling great.
Okay,
Going. How about
good.
yourself, Paulie?
Well, yeah. So I might as well just start off with this story. Father of two.
Yeah.
Uh, we spent we're recording this the day after Valentine's. It'll air on Saturday, but we're recording this the day after Valentine's. And my topic that I wrote down for one of my line items was Happy Valentine's Day via the ER. Jess and I had the privilege of spending our evening, my wife and I, in the ER last night with our son. He took a shoulder to the front of his face and had a little damage to some permanent teeth. But and we can go more into that a little bit about, like, sometimes big kids, big problems, small kids, big problems, though, right? And what that looks like. Um, Specifically, the story is that he was at basketball practice playing aggressive basketball, ran into another player of his, teammate of his, and he essentially you know knocked out his front tooth and had some damage. And so you know it's interesting as a parent getting that phone call. I was running some errands around town, and we're kind of down to two cars right now. So his car was at the high school, and so all of a sudden we get that call. And as a parent, I don't know if you can relate to this, Brett, at all, but getting those phone calls, you're like, all right, fight or flight, let's go. And you just kind of get
Yeah.
into father mode, and went to the high school, pulled up to the back door, and went and picked him up. And then it's interesting. You go around the corner and you see your son sitting on the ground, meet with the trainer, and he's strong. He's doing fine, by the way. Just for everybody to know, he's healthy, doing well. But these are the tests that we get when we sign up to do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know.
and
I'm still processing. Still
yeah,
processing here. Yeah.
no, it's and I know your kids are younger. I'm not saying this to scare you, but there are those moments where you're just like, all right,
Yeah.
step into that role as, all right, we're dead. Here we go. And we're able to get him to the dentist yesterday and meet with him. And then we ended up having to transfer to the ER because we had to go see an oral surgeon, kind of put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And it's not too different from my story when I had my accident falling off the roof. And we don't have enough time in this podcast to go through all that, but there are those moments in life where you do fall, you do have accidents, and
Yeah.
once again, you can get caught up in that monkey mind of what if, and all the different things that might play out. But the more that we as parents can kind of dial it in, take some deep breaths, share that same mantra, with the person that's going through it. I mean, last night was kind of a, counseling session. He was getting poked and prodded, and just kind of going through that process of trying to calm him down as well as yourself. It's that dual role. But happy ending. Long story short, he's doing better. He's on the recovery. He's on the mend, and just might have to take a couple of weeks off of out of sports here.
That's a big deal. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Paul. That's got to be scary. Very scary.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's like, so is he lost a tooth? Is that right? He lost a tooth, and did he break anything?
It's crazy. So first of all, it is scary, and I have no problem admitting that.
Yeah.
But once again, it also you take action. Action breeds action. We
Yeah.
do the things that we need to do to make sure that we can help him out. And what they found is that they actually saved the tooth. We were able to bridge it, put it back together, and kind of put everything uh, structurally back together. And then you learn a lot more about a certain part of your body too. There's so many nerves and so many different things going on in the mouth. I guess the healing process is actually going to be quite not simple. I mean, and he's going to have a tough couple of weeks and a lot of milkshakes, but
Sure.
again, how do we twist that message? Well, he goes from eating, crunchy pizza or something like that to he gets a milkshake a couple times a day. Merry Christmas, right?
Now I gotta ask you. So the work that you've done over the last few years, different books you've read, different things that have come up, stoicism for sure.
Yeah.
You think you're better prepared for moments like this now?
Like unquestionably more prepared for this, because one of the things that I found in parenting, and you tell me what you think is about this, but one of the things that I found is how I show up can dictate how they're going to show up, right? If I come in with a lot of anxiety, a lot of emotion, rage, anger, that emulates onto your kids, and you see it kind of them embody that. And so through a lot of this work that I've done on myself, and believe me, and there's still plenty of work that I need to do, but through that process, I think that I am so much stronger and more prepared to handle, or better prepared, not more prepared, but just better prepared to make sure that control what we can control. Our first step was to go see the dentist and get the evaluation, find out what was going on. He's like, I'm not sure about this. I think we need a CT scan. So then we transferred over across town to Southdale. And so, we control the things that we control, and also not to add more anxiety or more drama to a situation. Normally in the past, that drive across town would have been miserable because I would have been rushing. I would have been, complaining about somebody not moving fast enough in traffic, all those things, because of my own anxiety, not because of anything that happened here, right? So to answer your question, a long answer, I guess, is that I'm in a much better place. And actually, I witnessed it and I acknowledged it last night. It was pretty interesting. Jess and I, after we got home and he's safe and he's sleeping, over, a Valentine's glass of wine in the late evening, we were able to kind of, pull back and reflect a little bit. And it was one of those moments where we were like, yeah, I think I definitely showed up differently. And I think a lot of it does stem from, once again, not Pollyanna, but real world, like how we can show up differently, how we can make a choice when we're faced with adversity to show up in a better light.
Yeah, that's contagious. I've noticed even with little kids, your energy is contagious. The way that you react to situations is contagious, in one way or the other. So I figured you were going to say yes, because I've noticed in my life too, like the more you have these little practice sessions, when the big game happens, if we want to use the sports analogy, you're more prepared for it.
Well, do you have an example of how you've also done very similar to my journey. You were actually ahead of stoicism a little bit before I was. You were doing a lot of this reading. How do you think as a parent, philosophy and these books?
Oh yeah. I'll give you a story. When our son was 4 months old, he got bronchiolitis, and then he got RSV, and then pneumonia. And this is our first kiddo. He's 4 months old. He's getting an X-ray. They stick him in the machine, and they got to hold him because obviously he's not going to sit still for an X-ray. So they got him just like this, and that was like, I had not really gotten into stoicism and gotten into a lot of the reading. So for me, it was like, your mind can play some pretty horrible tricks on you when you're in those situations. So that's why, I look back now, I'm like, I wish I would have had, not wish, I guess I'm not like regretting anything, but if I had, and I'm glad I did start to really work on my mindset and the way that I look at things, and there is an opportunity in everything. And I got to spend a lot of extra time with him at home during that time, and I got to learn a lot. I appreciate him even more
Right.
Now just knowing those little things where it's just yeah, I guess that would have been the opposite where I didn't have the tools, if you
Right.
will, to pull from, and now I do, which helps a lot. So I think that was like a practice game that set me up to become a better dad, to become a better person. So yeah,
Well,
I can relate.
and what I like about that, Brett, is that it's a great example of seeing the difference of where you are now versus where you were then, right? So
Yeah,
that is a distinction. I mean, if we want to go back into my history when the kids were young, and we had two kids, and I actually when they were young, I traveled. I mean, for work, I had 10
yeah,
states. I was on an airplane Monday through Thursday, and I remember coming back and not showing up. So I have many different stories of that where I would show up and all of a sudden inject myself into the family situation, which was very copacetic and very very smooth and transitional through my wife. But all of a sudden, bring in I was tired, I was cranky, my own anxiety into a situation
yeah,
that just put fuel on a fire. I mean, I have many stories along with that, but knowing the difference and seeing the difference of where you are now versus where you were then, I think is, hey, that's growth, right? This is
you've
us
got
doing
to
it.
admit,
We're living life. We're doing it one day at a time, and now we're doing it
yeah,
as fathers.
that's what I love about this podcast. It's real. I mean, I got on here to talk with you, and you go, just letting you know, this is what's going on. So like, I had no clue. I mean, I found out, 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. So, but you almost are prepared for the, expect the unexpected at this point. And I was talking
Well,
to somebody the other day. It's like, you'll never stop worrying about your kids. Your kids are your heart out walking around.
yeah,
And when your heart is out of your body, physically walking around, you will always worry. But anxiety is a greedy son of a bitch. So don't let it take from you
right.
always. You still have to enjoy your life. I think that's one of the, I don't know, that's something that just popped in my head that made me,
No,
you made me
I,
think about it. So,
I love that. And what's interesting is, to your point, my whole plan on when we talked about this podcast and this title specifically, my whole thing was like I was going to put the difference of the way we raise our kids now versus the way you and I were probably raised, right?
sure.
Uh, and that's where I was going to go, but we're coming full circle, which I love. So you said something that really hit home. You said, when they're out there, you're always wearing, that's your heart out there, that type of thing, your kids. I remember my dad saying something as soon as my first son was born, and he said, congratulations, it's the best day of your life and it's the worst day, because best day, this beautiful, child, but it's also the worst day because you won't stop worrying about him from here on out. And what's interesting is we were raised so differently, where there were times we've talked about it, right? Where all of a sudden it's like, hey, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll see you back for dinner at 6:30. Just make sure you come back. What you did in between there, they didn't
Yeah.
know. Whereas versus now, you know what I mean? Would you ever let your son or daughter all of a sudden, yeah, come back at 6 o'clock? And your kids are a little bit younger, but what I'm saying is there was a big difference, but yet that worry and that concern was still there, which I thought was a really cool statement, considering
Yeah.
my dad's kind
It
of
really is.
a
Yeah.
reserved guy. But what I appreciate about it, that what you said though, reflection, is that getting better with this whole mindset thing is not letting that anxiety dictate. And so there is a little piece of me now that my kids are getting older to kind of like encourage them to, or almost, how do I want to say this, like almost empower them to be the young adults now that my wife and I have raised successfully, right? Like we've
Yeah.
given them a lot of the values, a lot of the things that how we want them to show up. Are they going to make mistakes? Absolutely. But hopefully their mistakes aren't as big as maybe some of the mistakes I made, or
Sure.
big enough where it really is going to send them back. But that might happen too. It's that reflection of going back to one of my favorite books by far, by Ryan Holiday, is The Obstacle is the Way, right? These obstacles in life, which guess what? They're going to happen for everybody. They can be as small as, cutting your knee, walking down the sidewalk, or as big as, maybe something that happened yesterday, with my son. Whatever they are, that obstacle has that opportunity once we face that obstacle, that becomes the way. How do I want to say that? The obstacle that is in the way becomes the way. Like we learn from those mistakes. We learn from falling down, and how we get back up truly determines our character moving forward, which I love that perspective rather than the victim mentality or why did the world do this to me type of thing, because it has so much more opportunity rather than restrictions.
And this is kind of off parenting, I guess, but that book is my favorite book. It's one I recommend to every teenager I talk to, or even young adults. I mean, even old adults. It's an amazing book. It really is. I mean, the stories that are in there, it's incredible. It's incredible. You'll start seeking out obstacles. You'll start looking for them. And I'm not saying from a parenting perspective. I'm
right.
Plenty of those I'm sure will be coming my way, and I'm not going to be looking for them.
Sure.
But teaching your kids to look for those obstacles too, like, they've got a friend at school that they're not getting along with. It's like, well, it sounds like you guys can work on you should work on that relationship. That sounds like an opportunity is what it sounds like.
Right.
And that conversation is the relationship. So you should probably have a conversation with them. I've got a 5 and a 2, so it's not like I'm too far. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but I think from a work perspective or a life perspective, you start looking for opportunities too. It's a big obstacle. Let's all look for that big obstacle. Let's go. Well, let's look at that. I mean, let's see if we can get in there. Like you're looking at a big account that nobody can get into. I'll raise my hand. I'll try. I mean, let me see. I mean, the bigger the obstacle, the bigger the opportunity from that perspective. So it really changed the way I view a lot of things. And I think it affirmed a lot of stuff, but it also just said, it gives you the confidence that you've done something before that's been very difficult. Go find something else. That's another challenge that you can really take on. I'll be done with that, but it's because we're back to the parenting piece, but I really do love that book. Oh man, it's an incredible book.
Yeah, I see for sure something down the road, and if it's not already one of our subject matters that we'll tackle. I love even just tackling that book and bringing out like even the top 5 quotes from that book, because he reflects a lot back on just history, right? You know what I mean? Talks about Theodore Roosevelt, talks about some of our forefathers, talking about how they overcame what they did. FDR, you know what I mean? Overcoming his obstacles and becoming the leader of the free world. I mean,
was it? I don't mean to interrupt you, but was it Edison? Edison, Thomas Edison, who his factory starts on fire, and he goes and he runs, and you're thinking he's running to the fire department or whatever. He runs and gets his family and goes back to his factory and goes, let's watch this because this is the biggest fire you're ever going to see. And because he goes, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to rebuild it. Got something to do, another opportunity. It's just incredible. I mean, seriously.
Well, that's one of my favorite stories, because that's exactly it. The story is actually, he tells his son, he said, go tell your friends and your mom's friends, come watch this, because they'll never see a fire like this ever again. The huge factory burning down. His life work is burning down, and he's sitting there saying, let's stare in the amazement. And then he saw it as the opportunity, rebuilt it in 3 years, was like 3 times the profitability. He goes into the book talking specifically about the opportunity. He goes, do you know how much junk and bad ideas I had that burned down in that building? Great, what an opportunity to start all over. Started over, and within 3 years, I think doubled or tripled his yearly average of income, and came up with some great ideas. So that's one of my favorite stories. So we'll have to do an episode just.
I think we have to. Yeah.
So pivoting back to the topic of life as a father, what are some of the challenges that you face, or what are some of the topics you are?
Yeah, some of the things I wrote down. I mean, keeping it simple, entertaining. So many things that they say at 5 and 2 just make you laugh so hard. Like Valentine's Day, 5-year-old says it's Valentine's Day, and he constantly just keeps saying it. You don't correct him. I mean, you can correct him, but it's like, what is that going to do? Valentine's Day was great. Valentine's Day.
Sure.
And it just little things, the crazy stuff that they say. It's so entertaining. I feel like nobody ever has a shirt on in the home. It's like you get home and it's like shirts off, it's underwear party. It's like, what are we doing? It's like,
Oh my
here we
God.
go. It's like, it's a zoo or a circus most days,
Sure.
which is fun. And embrace the chaos is the way that we kind of look at it, because they're only going to be little for so long. So
Oh,
it's so entertaining. It's so much fun, but it's challenging. For us, it's trying to just get them to get a routine down, and to get them to listen. I think is the big thing right now, and it seems like that's probably going to be the big thing for the next 100 years. So we have like listen, use your manners, ask, and help people. Those are our four things that we really try to instill into our kiddos. Listen, use your manners, ask, and help people.
yeah.
I
Like
try and ask Lewis. Try and ask her 5 after school. It's like, who did you help today? And he's usually got somebody that he's helped. He helped somebody pick up something. So those are kind of some of the things that we try to get him to at least think about a time that he helped somebody during the day. Something that
really.
we would like. Yeah, with something that we want him to think about. Just try to instill that thought process in their minds. So right now we're still in diapers, so that's another challenge that we're trying to. The potty training is always a
Sure.
hoot. They're getting there, right? I mean, the 5 is good. 2 is she's on her way, and she's doing it. She's doing her thing, and
Yep.
yeah. But then I wrote here fun. I mean, because I didn't realize how much fun it would be to use cardboard again. So you get something in the mail, and it's like you're able to make something. Like I made a sword the other day.
Oh
I
my.
made a shield the other day. That's all they want. They just want to spend time with you doing stuff together. And whether you just sit on the floor and enjoy the time together, that's just we just try and have as much fun hanging out with them and being with them. And hopefully that's a foundation that we can set as a family for for the years to come. So those are just a few things on my side
Yeah.
of the deal. So the
Sure.
other thing, like the challenge really is getting them into activities, but not getting them not forcing things on them. Like, yes, I played hockey my whole life,
Yep.
and I've been hearing a little bit like, well, when's he going to get into hockey? When's he going to get into hockey? How's hockey going? Does he like skating? Like, well,
Right.
that's something that'll be there.
Sure.
That's something that we're doing, but it's just one piece of a large puzzle of raising a young adult in a way. Like you got to start at a young age to just try to get a foundation for them. So we want to get them into the arts. We want to get them into the sciences and get them into a lot of other stuff too, because there's just such a big world out there that we don't want to point them in the direction that's absolutely the way you have to go. So
Well, Brett, I love a lot of that. I will differ
yeah,
in this last piece where, as a parent, it is our job to push our agenda on them with activities, though. That's our job. Like, you need to make sure that they do hockey, that they're hockey players, because you played hockey. I tried to do that with wrestling. No, that did not work for me at all. I had these dreams of my son being this big wrestler, and like I said, I
sure.
traveled a lot when I was younger, or when we were, when they were younger, and and literally, I didn't realize I was gonna have 6'5" and 6 foot kids, and so I came back from one of my trips, and all of a sudden he's at a basketball camp, and next thing you know, he turns into a basketball player. Great late plans mean absolutely nothing. So expose them to everything. I love that. Like
All right.
everything one. We tried to do that. We tried to go the music route, and obviously with our
Yeah.
our family, the music we thought maybe might take, and it didn't. We went a different direction. But I love the idea of exposing them to a lot of different things, because giving them that message that, hey, you can do anything, but once you do, then we commit to it. Then we make, you put in those
Yeah.
values. But let's go back to those 4 topics again. Can you say that you asked them to, what is it? Listen.
Oh, yeah. Listen, use your manners, ask, and help people.
So ask. What's ask?
Well, just like if you want to watch TV, you gotta ask. Like, let's just ask mom and dad. Like before you just grab the remote, turn on the TV, and switch
Okay.
channels. And if you want a snack, ask. Like at a younger age, just ask. And we are gradually going to to the point where we want them to be self-sufficient. So at some point we'll say you don't need to ask anymore, and that'll probably, remove that. But just asking for things before you
Okay.
just jump in and do something. So.
And then
Yeah.
listen, obvious, right? So listen to the
Yeah.
mom and dad, right? When you're given some direction.
Well, and when we took that, I actually had the conversation yesterday. He's in karate as well, and got to listen to your instructor. Didn't get a stripe yesterday. Was supposed to get a stripe. Didn't get one. Teacher, instructor came up, said, you were supposed to get a stripe today, but you were wiggly and you weren't listening. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, just you get in the car then, and my wife took him, but it's like you get in the car then, and that one's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think we really need to even talk about that. The instructor did that, so let's listen to the instructor. Listen to your teacher. They know what they're talking about.
How did he take it? How did he take it?
Well, he's like, all right, what are you going to do next time? I'm going to listen. I want to get my stripe. I mean, that's one of his favorite thing. When he gets a stripe, he thinks it's great. Everybody cheers, and
Oh wow!
That I wasn't in karate. It is such a cool experience for them. Like,
yeah.
At least as a parent, you get to the values that they're instilling in them, and the focus and the structure. Yeah.
You want me to tell you my karate experience?
I'd love to hear it.
We went, well, in each, I don't know if they call them dojos or whatever they call them. We literally went to one that probably wasn't the best fit. I thought it was gonna be great because I love this guy. A little over the top for the demeanor of my kids at the time. We paid for the whole thing. Like, yep, we're in. Went to one class, didn't work out. And so it was a learning experience for parents and kids. Kids were like,
sure.
I'm not having any of this. But I do. I think that karate is a good experience, but our experience was very different. And as a parent that didn't know a lot of the things that I know now, I would have totally done it different, right? And I think your example is an awesome experience. Hey, you want to stripe? Yeah, maybe you got to listen a little bit better, right? And how cool is it for your kid to say, yeah, I'm going to have to listen. I need that stripe. My kids would have lost their stuff, and it would have been a nasty car ride home, which would have brought my anxiety up. So that's cool.
Sure.
That's the way it's going for your kids. That's cool.
The way it went. That's the way it went last night. Yeah. Not saying that's the way it goes. I mean, it's just the way it went last night. Yeah.
Right. So. It sounds like you have the perfect kids. Sounds like.
Oh God. Not even close. No. I mean, they're great kids. It's just it's an experience, right? Everything's a challenge, and again, it goes back to the obstacle is the way. Like if you're gonna have kids, be ready for a challenging time. And again, I don't have older kids, so I'm not pretending like I know what I'm talking about. It's just expect the unexpected. It's gonna be a challenge.
And I think one of the things I have learned from going through a lot of the things that you're going through now and where I am now, the only difference is I think I'm giving myself and my wife just that opportunity to learn rather than beat myself up over something I did poorly or didn't do well. Having a little grace for myself too. That hey, I'm learning. I never really looked through the manual that said how to be a good father of two kids. You know what I mean? But hopefully my litmus test is how they're showing up in the world each and every day. So when you talk about, that you're telling your kids, who did you help today? I mean, what's great about it, and you haven't maybe seen the results of that, but you'll see it one day where all of a sudden they're in third grade or something, and you're going to see them pick somebody off the ground and help them up, put them into a chair, do something, and you're going to see it organically off to the side. And you're going to know at that one moment, I did the right thing as a dad that day when I had them say, hey, who have you helped? So you'll see that as the kids get older.
Yeah.
I guess that's kind of my indicator. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I've learned from my mistakes. But when you see your kids do some things that show up differently and the impact it has on other people, and when other people recognize it, that's your, even though it's not necessarily your trophy, right? We talked about how everybody needs a trophy or a ribbon. No, that's your moment where you just sit back and reflect, and you're like, wow, at least I did one thing right, you know?
Yeah. Can you tell me a story? You got anything you're willing to share about moments you looked at your kids, you're like, oh man, I'm so just a proud dad moment.
Well, now you're gonna get me teary. I think one of my favorite ones, and it's not too recent, but I think my son was a freshman in high school, and he was part of this. He was in this class that was kind of a flag or something. It wasn't like English, history, or grammar, but there was um, uh, autistic uh, kid that was a senior in the class, and and one of the things that my son does is just he always shows up and just is talking to everybody, right? Hopefully he shows up in that way where he's not putting labels on people. He kind of is who he is, right? And there was an opportunity for this autistic person or this individual to do the school announcements, and he was so excited about it. So he kept telling my son, and he's like, oh, you're gonna love it, I'm gonna do the announcements, I'm gonna know it. And he's cheering him on, and my son's cheering him on and doing all this stuff and all excited. Well, he did the announcements and then came back into the class that Carter was at. Well, what Carter did is he set up the whole class. He said, when this individual walks in, he goes, everybody stand up and give him a standing ovation.
Oh my gosh.
And
That's incredible.
It was one of those moments where he came in, gave him a standing ovation. Of course, this kid just absolutely hugs everybody, starts high-fiving everybody, just everything like that. And the teacher then goes into tell this principal and the coaches that on the teams that he's playing in. He's like, this just doesn't happen on a regular basis. It's people like your son that have done these things to set him apart and be different than maybe what society says you should be or you shouldn't be. And that's a moment that I will never forget and couldn't be more proud of. Like, you know what, I might have screwed up a lot of things, but I think I did something pretty good there because of how he showed up in that moment.
You created a leader.
Yeah,
that's a leader. It's a leader right there. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of him for that one. So wow, I wasn't expecting to bring that up. That was that was cool.
Man, you've had a hell of a 24 hours here, man. So.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. How about you? I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're early on in the journey, like you said. I forgot that you're still in diapers. I forget when they're out of diapers. So I'm like,
no, you're good. So what you reminded me of a book, by the way. So book's called Power of Moments by Chip Heath, and you can I don't know if you ever read that. So it's basically think about like when you're growing up, like 0 through 25, you have a ton of moments in your life that you can look back on: birthdays, anniversaries. I guess not anniversary, maybe anniversaries. Like graduation, just sporting events. But once you hit 25, it's a lot of times like where those moments go. So it's based on like companies a lot. Like they can create a moment and where they can recognize someone. And what your son did was he created a moment for that kiddo. That not only he created a peak in a moment because the kid already had a moment where he was given that he was able to do the announcements, if I heard you correctly, and then he created a peak within that moment because that kid was not expecting to walk in the class and have everybody applaud him, standing ovation. That made the moment even better. So it like increased that moment. That's what they talk about in that book, but so it's just reminded me. Sorry to kind of digress there.
That book again? Who's the author?
Chip Heath. I think it's him and one other guy. That's what I was kind of looking up here. I think it's Chip Heath, and it might be co-authored by someone else too. But it's a great book. I think it's the Heath brothers. There's two of them. Chip Heath and Dan Heath wrote it together. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I will have to, I'll definitely look that up, because that sounds like a great book. And I'm a sucker for a good book about new opportunities to kind of capitalize on those moments like that. And that sounds like the perfect book.
Yeah.
So, very cool. Very cool.
So, yeah, our 5. Yeah. Before because you asked, I guess I'll brag a little bit. So Louis, gosh,
that's
so 5-year-old.
That's the other piece of this, right? Is that, as a good father, there's got to be some of those break moments. So please, yes.
It was a great moment. He, we didn't realize at school there was a gal who used a walker at school, a little one. She was 4 at the time, and she had a walker. And I guess, I think it was working what we were saying to him, because we had no clue. I guess they take naps every day, right? So they have snack, and then they have lunch, and then they calm down, and then they have a nap. Well, I guess every day for a few months, while that kiddo was going to school with them, he would rub her back while she went down for nap. And we were just kind of like, we didn't hear it until the director told us, like probably 4 or 5 months later, that he was kind of just soothing another kiddo to nap, because she had a tough time going down for nap. And we were just like, that. Yeah, we were like, what? Why doesn't he go down for nap for us? Like that.
Right.
But it was really cool. So yeah, that was definitely a moment that, if I would think of one off the top of my head, that was really like, hey, he's helping people. So just great kid, right? So
did he recognize that? Did he tell you that, or you heard it from the director?
He never told us. No, the director told us. Yeah. So it's just something he did.
I love it, man. What I love about that's exactly what I was referring to earlier. Like those moments where he doesn't come home and necessarily talk about that, because he doesn't think of it. Those are those moments as a parent. I think, I could be wrong, but those are the moments as a parent that I think we can show up differently, and they show up differently, and we are recognizing it without somebody telling you, without somebody, you know what I mean? Without, like, when you're able to see those things and see it organically happen, not because they're getting praise or not because they're getting a reward or anything like that they're doing that. That's something that you've had an impact on him. And as a father, you should feel very, very proud. And those little wins that you can build upon. Yeah.
Makes me think, like, we can learn so much from the kids. We can learn so much, like, what are we doing when nobody's watching? Right. That's what I think of there. And then also just, be nice. Like, if you're in a tough spot, like you're in a rut, let's say at work or something just getting you down, go help somebody else. I think about that a lot, actually. I try and keep notes, like, just help. Who have you helped today? Try and help somebody else. And I think you'll find that naturally in the world usually, well, maybe not right away, but it'll reciprocate, right? I think you put that energy into the world to help someone else, and someone else is going to help you. I've never seen the movie Pay It Forward, but it makes me think of that movie. I used to say it a lot, like, Pay It Forward. I've actually never seen that movie, but I've heard it's awesome.
Isn't that the one with Kevin Spacey?
I think it is. Yeah, I should watch it.
It's actually a really good movie. It's actually a really good movie, and now it has a different undertone with him being the key character. But regardless, though, I love that idea. It kind of goes back to one of the reasons why we started this podcast. So that whole idea, and like I said, it sounds narcissistic, but hopefully something on this podcast resonated with somebody that's listening to it, right? And if that can make a positive impact, that's our way of hopefully serving others or trying to help others. Because if we've gone through it, the good and the bad, right? We both gave examples. Hopefully that can have a positive impact on somebody else, and that is what really, fills my tank and really gets me excited about continuing this forward, keeping up with different topics, and touching on these pieces that are authentic and real world to how we're showing up. So
100%. 100%. What
Yeah.
else do you think? What else is going on, man?
Well, I did have one of the we were talking about the differences between now and the way we were raised. The last thing I'm going to touch on, and then we can go from where you want to go. But the last thing I was going to talk about, I've kicked the can on here. Like when we were kids, we used to play kick the can and just be gone for hours, right? Hours on.
Yeah, I love that game. Oh my gosh.
One of the great moments
yes,
is when
yes.
when we
It's
were
incredible.
when our kids were getting older. Our kids decided all of a sudden they're playing in the backyard and it was dark out and they had flashlights. I'm like, what are you guys playing? And they're like, kick the can, Dad. One of my favorite, like that's one of my favorites. Like literally, I'm like, it's still going. It's still going. I love it. You know what I mean? They can have all these gadgets, they can have all these phones, and that'll be a whole separate topic about phones and social media. And you're not into it as much as we are with teenagers, but the idea that they were outside playing kick the can still to this day was, and this was probably 5 years ago, but I was pretty pumped about that. You ever play kick the can?
Paul, oh man, that was it was unbelievable. Yeah, that was one of my favorite games.
Or
glad you bring that up.
Ghost in the Graveyard, I think, was another one.
We played some Ghost in the Graveyard, but kick the can was the one. That's the memory. All the neighbors came together in the backyard. There were no fences. Like I feel like everybody now, like I go back to my parents' house and everybody's got a fence up. We didn't have any fences, and it was like you just spread in the backyard of everybody's house. And kick the can was it was fabulous. I was so young when we were playing because I had two older sisters. Just had these memories of watching the older kids play, and they let me be involved. I can't wait for those types of games to be played because our neighborhood we've got a lot of kids all the same age, and they kind of line the street of about the same age kids, and then across the street are we call them the elders. They're the older families. They laugh. They think it's funny too, but they watch us and they laugh at how much we're trying to chase our kids down. But we're gonna have a lot of that. We're starting to see it already, where you can kind of just put the 5 and 2 out the door and let them kind of run a little bit.
Sure.
Up and down the street. So I'm excited to watch that. One thing, a moment that I had recently, just kind of staying on topic with what you were chatting about, just seeing that in your kiddos, was I got to introduce Star Wars. It probably is a little too early for Louis, but
no,
whatever.
not at all. I'm early.
So we're having our Saturday.
Put your daughter's hair up in a little Princess Leia headdress.
So it's fun. Saturday mornings are Star Wars mornings. So we started with A New Hope, and then we went. I started with the first one that was filmed, and then we went through Return of the Jedi, and then we've gone back to Episode 1. But now I watch him. He's got put a black glove on to look like Luke. And he's like, Dad, you're Darth Vader. I'll be like, I'm your father. It's fun.
How many like literally laser sword fights I used to have when we were young. That was awesome. That's great. Enjoy. Start them early.
A lot of that going on, buddy. A lot of that going on right now. So it is so fun. It's so fun.
Well, what's great about this, and we're wrapping up here, but the one of the things that I love about this, Brett, is I feel like I'm reliving some of those moments that I had with my kids when they were that young, when they were 5 and 2. Like as you're telling these stories, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when they did that. And so in my mind, I have those images now that I didn't necessarily remember, recently, and now they're kind of coming back, which that's a treat in itself for me. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing those stories.
Well, thank you. And I said it after the last one. I've been learning a lot from you as an older, I keep saying that, as an experienced dad, we'll say. Experienced dad.
Yeah.
Leaving a sport, just like leaving karate now or something like that. It's like, yeah, I really love watching you do karate instead of trying to get into the weeds on it. That's what you told me. Like all you got to tell a kid is, I really like watching you perform, or I like watching you play. I really love watching you, and that's all they want to hear. And it's like they have an instructor, they have a coach to teach them. When they get in the car, it's supposed to be the safe space. You know,
They
that's
want to be with
where
dad. They want to be with dad,
that's
not the secondary coach, right? Not the Monday morning quarterback.
My parents did a fantastic job of that, and that's something I want to continue. So
Yeah, very cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you, and I appreciate our conversations. And as always, man, take care, and looking forward to next week.
All right, buddy. Good luck with everything, Paul.
All right, thanks. See you, Brett.
See you.